Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. Today I wanted to talk to you about resistant starch. And the reason I wanted to talk to you about that is because it's so beneficial for so many health, it has so many health benefits, particularly with when it has to do with blood sugar levels, like diabetes or something like that. And I'm talking about this because when you're having to do a gluten-free diet, you have to find alternatives to your typical wheat flour. Okay? I mean, wheat's in everything. That's a bakery or anything that we like to, have a treat for. So in our breads. So we have to find an alternative for it. And there's lots of alternative flours. But one of the ones that I really, really love is tiger nut flour. But I'm going to talk about resistant starch first and to explain why this is something that I really like. So if you're not familiar with what resistant starch is, it's a starch or a carbohydrate type of thing that is resistant to digestion. So what that means is that when we eat it, it passes through the stomach without being digested. It passes through the small intestine until it gets to the large intestine or the colon. So when it gets there, it functions as a soluble fermentable fiber. And this is important because once it gets to the colon, that's where all the good gut bacteria is, the good friendly flora or bacteria is. And that needs something to chew on or something to eat off of, to feed off of. And that's what this resistant starch is. When it gets to the colon, it then feeds the friendly bacteria. And so this is really important because that friendly bacteria is what keeps our gut healthy. So it's interesting because that most foods only feed like 10% of the cells, but the friendly gut bacteria actually helps feed 90% of our cells. That's a lot, right? So when the bacteria feeds on this resistant starch, it forms a short chain fatty acid. And it's called butyrate. It puts off a product called butyrate. And that butyrate is the preferred fuel for the cells that line our colon. So you get where I'm going here with this? We're feeding healthy stuff to the cells that line our colon. So this is going to help lower the pH because when you have an acidic condition, that really leans toward unhealthiness. So it's going to lower the pH. That in turn helps to lower inflammation because we want to lower inflammation. Anytime there is inflammation, there is not feeling good, right? When you lower inflammation, that's going to aid in digestive disorders such as irritable bowel disorders, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, constipation, diverticulitis, diarrhea. It can reduce the risk of colorectal cancer that's how beneficial this resistant starch is. It can also increase the absorption of minerals, right? Okay, so now that we've talked about the importance of resistant starch, I'm going to talk about 2 substitute flours that are resistant starches. There's all kinds of substitute flours you can use, but just today I'm going to talk about tiger nut flour and green banana flour, because those 2 are both resistant starches. My favorite is tiger nut flour. Hands down, it's been a substitute for me for a lot of things. I like the flavor of it. It's something that you can substitute one-on-one for your wheat flour. For in any recipe, let's say you have a recipe, you don't need to substitute anything else in it. It's just the gluten, you have to get rid of that. You can substitute tiger nut flour 1-for-1 in most recipes. Now there's several different brands out there. There's a couple that I personally have tried. One of them is Gemini, Gemini. That was the first one I tried. I thought, oh, this is really great. But then somebody in my family said, oh, it's so gritty. And it was kind of gritty, a little bit more gritty than what you like. And so I thought, well, I'm going to try something different. And so I tried Anthony's tiger nut flour. And I do like Anthony's a lot. It's a lot more finer ground. Doesn't seem to be so gritty. So I take it, I put it in a jar like this. It does have a resealable thing on it. But I just kind of wanted to show you what it looked like. Now you'll notice there are some chunks. It kind of has some chunks in there. So when you do use it, you just have to make sure you break up the chunks and, so it mixes in really well. But it's a really good one-on-one substitute. Let's see, I'm trying to think of what else I would. Oh, don't let the name fool you. It's not a nut. It's just the name of it. It's actually a tuber, that grows underground. So it's found, it's grown, it's easy to grow. Some places consider it a weed because it can grow so easily. But it might be a little bit hard to find though. So the easiest place for me to get it is just to order it on Amazon, if you want to try it. Yeah, it contains, as I mentioned, it contains the prebiotic fiber, which is what a resistant starch is. It contains iron, potassium, protein, magnesium, zinc, vitamin E, and vitamin C. So I just like it a lot. It has a great flavor to it and substance to it. You can make a great morning porridge with it, kind of substitute your oatmeal with it. If you can't have oatmeal, it's a good substitute for that. There's some ways to work around that. The other flour then that I was mentioning before is green banana flour. That also is a resistant starch. Honestly, I've never used it. I've never had recipes where I've had to use it. This is one, I'm sure it's wonderful, but this is one where you need to use 40% less of the banana flour than what's called for in the recipe. So I don't know about you, but I would probably find that hard to make a substitute for. I would probably have to find a recipe that specifically uses banana flour, to make something. So, but otherwise, it's a good substitute if you're looking for something that has that resistant starch so that you can feed the friendly bacteria in your gut, because a lot of autoimmune diseases are gut related and gut health related. And so we're all about supporting the gut. So as I mentioned, there's all kinds of different flours that you can substitute with when you can't have wheat, barley, rye, and sometimes oats. When you have oats, you just have to make sure it's a dedicated gluten-free oat, because a lot of farmers alternate them on their farms and they alternate it with wheat, and so it will transfer, that gluten will transfer over to the oats. So next time we'll talk a little bit more about some of the other flours that you can substitute with. And that's pretty much it for today, friends. If you have any questions, put them in the comments and I will address them and answer them as well as I can. So hope you have a great rest of the day and enjoy it. Bye now.